George the cat lives with Mr. and Mrs. Somersby Richards. They're known as Mr. and Mrs. Longname. George is sad because he's lost his confidence. George doesn't think he's good at anything and doesn't like himself. George is envious of the freedom which the foxes at the bottom of the garden have to roam and play. It looks fun to live in their den. George decided that he was going to speak to Grandad Fox. George found him under a bush and asked whether he could speak to him about something important. Grandad Fox said in a wise, calm voice, "Of course, George. How can I help you?" George blurted out, "I don't like who I am, and I want to be a fox instead," he went on excitedly. "I'm ginger, so I'm the right colour, and I'm a very large cat, so I think I could easily be mistaken for a fox, except for my tail, of course, which isn't as bushy as yours." Grandad Fox thought to himself, "A cat who wants to be a fox? I need to understand more about this cat." Grandad Fox wanted to know what was causing George to be unhappy and to help him see what made George special. As they walked, Grandad Fox said, "Now I have some questions for you, but I want your permission to ask them." George nodded. "First of all, George, I would like to ask you what is good about being you." George sat down and tilted his head to one side. He was really struggling to be positive. Eventually he said, "Well, first of all, I like that I can climb trees and that I can balance when I'm walking along the top of a fence. I also love that if I fall, I'm able to land on my feet. And I really like being able to hunt for my food. I've killed birds, mice, frogs, and even a rabbit. When I brought them into the house, my owners didn't seem very happy though," George said sadly. "The positive thing, George, is that you see that you have skills in climbing, balancing, hunting, and falling without hurting yourself. I think your owners probably weren't happy because you made a mess in the home and they don't like eating frogs and mice. I think they're proud of your hunting skills. In fact, I've seen their children, Jack and Poppy, copy how you creep along and then pounce when you're hunting. Thank you. You've given me a different way of looking at things," said George. Grandad Fox continued, "So what else do you like about yourself?" George thought more deeply. "I really like that I am caring. I snuggle up on Mrs. Longname's lap to keep her warm, and I know that when she strokes me, it helps her relax. In return, I feel loved, and I do like a tickle under my chin."
Amazing. Thank you so much. That's so cool. And I mean, I was already listening to you talking there and I was picking up on a few things, but I wondered if you could tell us a little bit more about perhaps some of the messages that were behind that or what you were trying to get.
Yeah, the starting point there from George's perspective was he was really struggling to come up with anything positive about himself to start with. And most of the things that he came up with were around skills and abilities. That's fairly superficial though. And then as the story went on, you saw that Grandad Fox began to do that repetitive questioning pattern when he said, "Okay, so here's a summary of what I've heard you say. I've heard you say, you're good at hunting, but I'm going to ask the question again, and let's see where we go this time." And that's when George began to think a bit more deeply about who he was as a cat and how others benefited from the caring cat that he was.